Alongside hockey insider Pierre LeBrun on the red carpet here at the Hockey Hall of Fame. Pierre, let's start to look ahead at next year's class. First-year eligible players include Pavel Datsyuk, Ryan Miller, Pekka Rinne, Shea Weber, and Patrick Marleau. What do you think of that list?
Well, Pavel Datsyuk stands out as a no-brainer to me, Gino. It's pretty hard for me to believe that anyone believes he shouldn't go in his first year of eligibility. Such a magical player. Integral part of those Detroit Red Wings Stanley Cup championship teams. He won 7 major NHL awards and honestly could do things on the ice that no one else could during his era. I think Pavel Datsyuk will get in, and again, winning the 2 cups is a nice bonus, but I think that Pavel Datsyuk would get in even without that, given that we're in a 32-team league.
What about the holdovers? Guys who have been waiting. In the past, we've had years, there's so many players eligible in their first year that are no-brainers. A player gets bumped and then gets bumped again. And then maybe we start to forget about these individuals. One guy that comes to my mind is Alexander McGillney.
Yeah, he's top of list for me among the players that eventually should get in. I think it should have happened by now, but I get it. I know it's difficult for the committee to agree on and get 14 votes out of the 18. I think McGillney's number 1. I think Curtis Joseph is probably number 2, because if you look at Tom Barrasso and Mike Vernon finally getting in, and deservedly, by the way, I feel like that opens the door for Curtis Joseph, okay, who didn't win a Stanley Cup, but was absolutely a one-man show on some of those teams in Toronto and St. Louis, and I think really deserves a look for what he did, and maybe that opens the door to him. Sergei Gonchar, unbelievable career, put up huge offensive numbers in the dead puck era, playing on defense. You know, I think he should be in. Jeremy Roenick and Rod Brind'Amour. You know, Guy Carbonneau got in a few years ago because he was the best defensive forward of his era. Rod Brind'Amour was, an amazing two-way player during his time, and I think his time will come.
I had a conversation, you mentioned Jeremy Roenick. I had a conversation with Jeremy Roenick, and he's like, he feels like, man, what else could I have done during my career? But he understands that some of the stuff he did away from the game may have hurt his chances. Are we still at the point where something like that, or given time and the passage of time, people forget about it and go, look at the numbers that he had, very similar to a Pierre Turgeon who's going in this year.
Yeah, you beat me to it. Pierre Turgeon's inclusion probably helps a guy like Jeremy Roenick when you're just looking at the numbers. Jeremy Roenick is right there also in career numbers with guys like Daniel Alfredsson and Joe Nieuwendyk, who also got in. So he's right in that ballpark. And I really do think, I think of a guy like Mark Recchi, too, who is in the Hall. I think that opens the door eventually for JR. But what Jeremy Roenick needs is a guy or a person in that selection committee room to go to bat for him. That's how it works. Let's be honest about the process. You need a committee member to really make the case for you and to stay at it for a number of years.
And the other part of it, too, is we're now entering an era where there's not so many obvious first-year eligible players going in, which then makes room for the other guys to be caught up.
Yeah, that's true, although there's some interesting possibilities here. Like, I think Shea Weber eventually will get in. I just don't think it's a first-year eligible
But not a lock.
That's not a lock. And Ryan Miller, Pekka Rinne. Patrick Marleau is going to be a fascinating debate over time. Most games ever played, past Gordie Howe. His numbers, he's got more points than Alfredsson and Joe Nieuwendyk.
And his buddy just retired. Could that be a factor?
Well, this is the thing. And I have to give credit to Eric Duhatschek, our colleague, who mentioned this to me today. But remember when Paul Kariya went in with Timo Selänne? Is there any chance when Joe Thornton will definitely go in 3 years, whether Patrick Marleau gets voted in with his buddy Joe Thornton? That would be fun.
Interesting story to track. Hockey insider Pierre LeBrun at the Hockey Hall of Fame.